It's as horrible as you think it's gonna be.
Just the deepest pain.
The test came back incompatible with life. They didn't want us to give him oxygen. They didn't want us to feed him. He's not going to live. Life is futile.
I've given my life to Christ. I'm still experiencing these really difficult things.
Is this my life?
There are moments that are forever seared into your memory. It stays with you forever. We are action-packed around here and have a lot going on, but all things that at the end of the day and at the end of the week, we're like, man, what else would we rather be doing? We want to be investing ourselves and pouring our lives out into things that we care about and that we believe really matter.
Some of that is really fun stuff, and then other times, it's heavier but meaningful things. What kind of kingdom impact is this going to have or yield? Our 3.5-year-old Mayfield is just a mess and wild. With her, we're working through some developmental delays that she has. She is kind, has a pretty gentle spirit, but also pretty feisty at times and opinionated, which we love. Deacon is our 18-month-old. Yeah, his little personality is coming out. He's getting opinions too. Very curious. We are chasing them around all day, and it's exhausting, but a really sweet gift. We really desire to have an eternal perspective in all that we do.
My wife is a incredibly passionate person. She's a learner, a researcher, always wants to know everything there is to know about whatever topic it is. An incredible advocate for people, a woman of conviction.
The way I would describe Daniel: fun, humble, one of the kindest people I know, one of the most talented people I know. He's good at literally everything that he does. And I think just has a strong desire to lead others well, but also just teach them about the Lord.
The greatest gift of my life outside of Jesus is Kelly, for sure.
Decided, hey, we'd like to start our family, and found out that we were pregnant in the summer of 2015. I got a phone call from our provider, and she said, hey, you guys are having a little boy, but I want you to know that the test came back positive for trisomy 18. It's considered incompatible with life. We went to a specialist. He did a high-resolution sonogram and just said, based on what I'm seeing on sonogram, I'm 99% sure that your son has trisomy 18. And so we can just terminate the pregnancy and you guys can try again for a better one. Quickly found a new specialist that valued our son's life. We chose to name him Abel Paul. If Abel's death was impending, we weren't going to be the one to set that date. I think the reaction's always hoping that it's not true. Lots of tears, lots of unknowns. We had never known of anyone else that had walked through something similar, and so didn't really have anyone to ask questions.
The grief didn't just set in after a loss occurred. It set in as soon as you realized, okay, there's going to be a radical shift in expectations here. And so consciously or subconsciously, the different visions, dreams, assumptions that you make about this future, with this child, a lot of those probably are not going to happen.
As we approached Abel's birthday, we really were excited to meet our son, and we had no idea what that was going to look like.
January 22nd of 2016, Abel was born.
The shifts were changing often, every 24 hours with who was the provider that we were working with, and a lot of them didn't see value in Abel's life. They didn't want us to give him oxygen. They didn't want us to feed him. They didn't want us to figure out what was going on with his body. It was just like, hey, he's not going to live, so his life is futile. Got to take him home on day 5, and got to spend 10 days at home with him, which was something that we did not anticipate ever even getting to do. It's crazy how 10 days can feel like a year. We really do look back on specifically his birthday, but all of those days with a lot of joy and ultimately I think just gratefulness that the Lord chose us to be his parents.
There are moments in life that are forever seared into your memory and that you can close your eyes and you're right back there. And that's one of those moments for sure. Just the deepest pain that you can imagine.
Having to give your child to someone else and knowing that you're never gonna see them again, this side of eternity, it's almost like an out-of-body experience, I think. But, he passed away peacefully, and it was, there's no way to describe, I think, what the emotions are, but it's as horrible as you think it's gonna be,
Watching your child take their last breath and then, savoring a little bit more time with him, and then, having to say goodbye and see him go away.
Termination doesn't do away with the suffering. There's still loss.
It would have only robbed us of the truly rich, beautiful memories and moments. His life has changed ours forever for the better. We genuinely, looking back, see Abel's life not as something that we just endured out of conviction, but something that we really enjoyed and that we savored and that we see as a good thing. We wouldn't go back in time and erase Abel's story out of ours in order to spare us from having to say goodbye to him and lose him.
At this point, thinking about the Lord allowing anyone else to be Abel's mom is makes me just want to cry thinking about it.
One of the verses actually that was shared at Abel's celebration was out of Hebrews 11, verse 4. We did not know this was in the Bible. Through faith, even though he is dead, Abel still speaks. We didn't know that when we named him. Though he never uttered a word while he was on earth, that he is speaking, and the ripple effects of his life are going to go forth in ways that we are just really excited to see.
We officially started Abel Speaks January 22nd of 2018, which would have been Abel's second birthday.
We created Abel Speaks with the mission in mind to serve families that have chosen to carry a child with a life-limiting diagnosis. That journey is often marked by isolation and just a lack of support, a lack of understanding, a lack of empathy. There's a pretty underwhelming amount of resources available. Just being able to sit across the table and just look into the whites of someone's eyes and be like, okay, you have sat where we're seated, you got through it, you're able to speak about your child and your experience in a way where there's pain, but there's also beauty and joy and love. It was just this embodiment of gospel hope that we so desperately needed. And we found ourselves now in a place to pay that forward. The pro-choice and pro-life, just the heavy, tense political connotations that it now carries. We just want to offer a different perspective and hope that in doing so it might alter people's perspectives.
It is going to be probably the hardest road they've ever walked, and so we don't try to shy away from that, but also we want them to know that there's so much good that can come from it.
The studies are now showing that women who choose abortion actually experience higher levels of post-traumatic stress and anxiety and depression. We want to think that once we become unpregnant, it goes away. And the reality is it stays with you forever.
Knowing what your child looks like, knowing the sound of your baby's cry, knowing what color hair they have, knowing if they look like their mom or their dad is such a gift. We've had, I think, 3 families that we've served through Abel Speaks that ended up choosing to terminate the pregnancy. 97 other families that have chosen to continue the pregnancy and meet their kiddos in whatever capacity that looks like, and not one of them have ever regretted that decision.
Parents are never more sad because they got to meet their child. We've been parents for 5 years, but this is the first time, given our story, that we're seeing two of our little ones get to a point where they're really engaging with each other, interacting with each other.
Which is sweet just to see the way that the Lord has created and wired each one of them uniquely and specifically. We got pregnant 4 months after Abel passed away, which was not necessarily the plan. I ended up having a placental abruption with her, and we ended up in the same OR on the same day a year later and had her on Abel's birthday in the same room. That was also outside of our plans.
Hard not to see that as, just a little hug and a wink from God, just in terms of, hey, in case you were tempted to think that everything's random and by chance, I'm showing you that I'm with you.
After having her, every day tracked with Abel's life. When he was 2 days old, she was 2 days old. When he was 3 days old, she's 3 days old. I remember being up in the middle of the night feeding her on the morning that he passed away. I'm so grateful that she's here with us, but also so sad that he's not.
January 22nd of 2016, Abel is born. January 22nd of 2017, Mayfield is born. January 22nd of 2018, Abel Speaks is born, the ministry now that we operate. And then lo and behold, in 2018, we find out we're pregnant again with our third. We're down to a place where a C-section is recommended again, a 3-day window, and I'll just allow you to guess what one of those days was. We were just like, you gotta be kidding me. Let's just embrace the family tradition that my wife has babies on January 22nd. We got to meet Deacon Abel Crawford on January 22nd of 2019.
When we went to the hospital, a friend of ours was texting. For whatever reason, she said, do you know that this is the actual day that Roe v. Wade was passed? That was the first time I think that came across my radar.
Roe v. Wade, which is kind of that landmark case that declared abortion as a constitutional right, legalizing abortion in the United States in 1973. That happened on January 22nd of 1973. And so, for whatever reason, the Lord willed for him to be born on the same day that piece of legislation was passed. As it was a season of unprecedented grief and suffering, it was also a season of unprecedented growth and intimacy. Our son's life from the womb was already drawing us closer together. And then we found most richly of all that it was, leading to a place of deeper intimacy with the Lord. We just have unwavering confidence that God has a plan and a purpose for every life.
I want to continue to just champion for all of life, no matter the circumstances. It can be seen as good.
All of us can relate to those emotions of, man, I'm walking with God, I've given my life to Christ maybe, and yet I'm still experiencing these really difficult things. Comfort, hope, perspective, redemption. They can still be found in Christ. There's something about being in the valley of the shadow of death where you come to encounter, the man of sorrows in a more tangible, real way, knowing who Jesus was and what he endured, and how in that place where nobody desires to be, he desires to meet us there, and he did that.
Hopped on a plane with 4 other interns.
Interns were not supposed to be in relationships with each other. Under the cover of darkness, a little rooftop date night.
Daniel got cold feet 3 times.
Your boy was just tripping. There's no reason that you should believe me, but I'm telling you that if you're in, I'm in.
And then we got engaged 2 weeks later and married 3 months later.
God is love, and love comes from God. In 1 John, the Bible tells us that God is not only all-loving, but that He actually is love itself. The heart of the Parent Compass television show is to bring the transforming love of God to families everywhere. In every Parent Compass episode, true stories reveal family struggles and how their lives were radically changed by the love of God. Parent Compass, an award-winning television series, is completely funded by people like you. If you have been touched by God and you want to share God's love to others, would you please pass it on? Jesus tells us to go into all the world and to tell about Him. With your donation, you allow us to take this television show into many different nations and in many different languages, free of charge. And a portion of your donation goes to Parent Compass Outreach to feed starving children. Your gift does so much. To make your tax-deductible gift, go to parentcompass.tv/donate. That's parentcompass.tv/donate. And thank you for sending love and hope around the world.